Hello everyone and welcome to Making Things with String. My name is Kate. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in Nova Scotia, Canada. This is my crafty YouTube channel where I talk a lot about various crafts that I like to spend my time on. Primarily I talk a lot about cross stitch, but today I'm also going to talk about some knitting and some diamond painting as well. So for cross stitch, I have 5 finishes to show you. I have 3 works in progress, 1 brand new start, and some plans for cross stitch for the rest of this year. And then, like I said, I have some knitting content and some diamond painting for you as well. Hopefully there are some timestamps in the video description below that allow you to skip around if you want to check out anything in particular. All right, so thanks for joining me and let's get right into it. So we're going to start off with 5 cross stitch finishes since my last video. So the first finish I want to talk about is Home is Where the Horror Is. This is a pattern by the Witchy Stitcher. And I use mostly the called for DMC. I think there was 1 or 2 colors that I swapped out here. But yeah, mostly called for DMC. This is stitched on 32 count pearl gray Lugana. I started this summer on August 20th. And I finished it on October 1st. So that was Witchy Stitcher Day or Witchy Stitcher Stitch Day. Some people were sort of celebrating that online, and I finished this up then. I'll put in some footage over top of this as well so you can get a close-up look at this piece because there's some nice backstitching detail on this house. That I really think makes it pop and puts it all together, and a bunch of little French knots on the roof. Really cute little pattern. Something that I realized about this pattern since the last time that I showed it, and I figured this since I bought the pattern, but the house is actually meant to be representative of the house from the movie Psycho. So that's kind of inspired me to want to watch Psycho. I actually can't remember if I've seen Psycho before or not. I think maybe I have, but I don't really remember watching it. So maybe I'll watch it again. But yeah, you can see if you kind of Google image search for the house from Psycho, you'll see this and that sort of one window with the light on and a figure in the window. So love this little piece. Lady's in here with me, so you might see her or hear her bopping around. She wanted to join me. She didn't want to be out there by herself. Yeah, so like I said, August 20th was when I started this, finished it October 1st. So it took me 1 month and 12 days to complete this piece. All right, so the next finish that I would like to show you is something that I was working on for my WIPGO board, and that is Tree Lot C. So this is part of 3 parts in this one pattern by Hands-On Design. This is from the Jingle Ball Baubles book from last year. Actually, that's a lie. This was a Jingle Ball exclusive pattern by Hands-On Design. It was not the ornament that they had in the Jingle Ball Baubles book. So this was a separate pattern that I bought, but it had sort of 3 trees. I've now done 2 of them, this one being the second one. And so I used a mix of the called for DMC and some of my own substitutions on this. And the fabric is a 32 count charcoal linen, which is the same piece of fabric that I stitched the first tree. It's also the same piece of fabric that I'm going to stitch B, the second tree on. So all 3 will be stitched on this piece of fabric. This is called for 32 count charcoal linen. So this is awesome. It only took me a couple days to finish it, to start and finish it. I actually didn't even keep track of when I started it or when I finished it, so I can't tell. But yeah, love this little tree. They're really, really fun to stitch and really quick as well. So 2 out of 3 of those trees complete. And the next finish is the hands-on design bauble from the Jingle Ball Bauble book. So here it is. It's called Père Noël. And it is also stitched on that same 32 count charcoal linen, the same piece. So I'll have 4 little ornaments on this scrap piece of yarn that I purchased from the Stitch Bug. And yes, again, it's a mix of substitutions and called for DMC. I deepened the skin tone a little bit on my Santa, and I also changed the red of his suit. And yeah, the green is also different. If I was going to stitch this again, I might use a bit of a brighter green to contrast a little bit more with the fabric. But I am pretty happy with this. It was one of my favorite baubles. And I think I like the picture from the Baubles book, a little bit better than mine, but she used some fancy over-dyed flosses, which I didn't have. So yeah, I'm still really happy with my little Père Noël, and it's so cute. So this was also for WIPGO, and this finishing this actually crossed off 2 full blocks in WIPGO, one of which hadn't even been called yet. So I'm doing really good on WIPGO. I'll give you an update on the WIPGO board near the end of the cross stitch section here. But yeah, I actually started this little piece on October 19th. Just had like a few stitches done on it, and then the vast majority of this I stitched over the weekend, this past weekend, which was a 24 hours of cross stitch weekend. And so this was basically a start and finish during that 24 hours of cross stitch weekend. I had a virtual conference that I attended on Saturday, so I actually got to spend a lot of time on Saturday stitching while watching some conference presentations. So yeah, that meshed really well with 24 hours of cross stitch. So yeah, here's my cute little Père Noël. I really, really like that one. Again, like I said, one of my favorite designs in that bauble, in that Jingle Ball Baubles book. So cute. Next up is another Jingle Ball Bauble item. This is Clementine the Fox. And this is the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Jingle Ball Bauble from 2022. She's so absolutely adorably cute. I love this little ornament. And I love the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. So this is the called for DMC that I've used to stitch it. And the fabric is a 32 count sage green Lugana. I started this on October 1st after finishing my Home is Where the Horror Is. And I finished it on October 17th. So that was a total of 16 days. So this was finished before 24 hours of cross stitch. I didn't work on that at all this weekend. I finished it before that. But yes, she is so cute. The fabric that I'm using is a little bit different than what's called for. Sort of blue fabric was called for, but I kind of like the way that she looks on this green. And this little piece has a companion piece called Coulter the Fox, and that was the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery like exclusive pattern for Jingle Ball, which I also purchased and which is also part of my WIPGO along with this one. So I'll be stitching Coulter the Fox to go along with her in the next 2 months at some point. So take a look forward to that. So here's Clementine, another 2 squares off my WIPGO board by completing her. Last but not least for my finishes is yet another WIPGO item. Here we have Nordic Nutcracker. This is a pattern by Tiny Modernist. It was the Tiny Modernist contribution to the Jingle Ball Baubles book. And this one I've had on the go for quite some time. If you remember, it was back in sometime in January of this year that I started Nordic Nutcracker. So it was one of the first WIPGO calls that I got this year. And I did complete, this isn't the full pattern. I'll have a picture of the full pattern up so you can see, but I kind of just decided to omit everything outside of that little circle and just stitch the nutcracker itself. But yeah, I stitched half of it earlier this year, and all I had left was the green background. And so I had been kind of hanging on to this so that I could have it for when I just needed to have something really portable and just mindless background stitching. Yeah, that finally came up. So I did stitch on this a little bit this weekend during 24 hours of cross stitch. While I was watching my conference presentations, I filled in the rest of the background of this. And yeah, that was fun and relatively quick. Like, it's not a very big piece, so it's a lot of background stitching, but still not that much. All said and done. Only took a few days to fill in that background. And yes, I finished this on October 21st, so a mere 10-ish months after I started it. That's the way that the WIPGO pieces were supposed to go, though, right? Like I had each ornament on the WIPGO board twice, so that I would stitch half of it the first time it was called and half of it the second time it was called. All right, so that's it for my finishes. It's a lot for one video, but I've been really trying to work on catching up on those WIPGO calls, and since those are all of the WIPGO progress that I've made, I think right now I'll take a second to just update you on where I am with WIPGO. So I'll pop up on the screen my current WIPGO board. So you'll see a lot of green now, which is great. Those are items that have been called already this year and that I have stitched. You'll want to take a look at the yellow items. These are items that have been called but that I haven't stitched yet. The 2 white boxes haven't been called yet and I haven't stitched them. And then the 2 sort of orange boxes haven't been called, but I have stitched them. So like I showed you just now, I have finished Père Noël, and I've had Gingerbread House 2 finished for quite some time. So I'm in a pretty good position, I think. I've got November and December to finish essentially 4 squares, because there's only 4 squares left that I need to do. So that's 2 squares per month, which was the intention with WIPGO. And I've been doing, a little bit more than that the past few months to keep caught up or get caught up with WIPGO. So I think I can definitely do it. Tree Lot B will be really quick to finish. Just like A and C, they only take a couple days to do. And I'm really excited to stitch Coulter the Fox to get that partner piece done for Clementine. So yeah, looking good for finishing this up by the end of the year. So I fell behind on my WIPGO, but I was able to catch up, and so that's great. I'm happy with that. All right, so let me talk about some works in progress now. So pieces that you've seen before, but I'm just going to update you on the progress that I've made on them. So the first piece that I made some progress on since my last video was Ragnarok, which is a pattern by Long Dog Samplers. You should be seeing a photo of what that completed piece is supposed to look like. And like I mentioned in my last video, I wanted to work on Ragnarok a bit after completing Reaching Skyward as a sampler September piece. So my goal that I stated in the last video, you can see kind of where I was in the last video in the footage here. And my goal was to finish the first page of the pattern. Here's where I got. I have not quite finished the first page, but I did make some more progress on it. So this page here has like another half of an oak leaf right underneath this rocking horse unicorn. And so I haven't finished that, but otherwise I completed the vast majority of this first page of Ragnarok, and still really, really loving this. Loving this piece. There's a cute little bat in there now. There's a tiny little house sitting atop of an oak leaf. Really cool. And this down here is the start of a little squirrel tail. So this is an awesome little piece. It's coming together really well. As a reminder, I am stitching this using DMC variegated thread number 115. And the linen I have discovered thanks to some comments on my previous videos where I expressed some uncertainty about what's actually the fabric is. I have determined that this is in fact 28 count DMC Irish linen, tea-dyed Irish linen. So that's what we've got here, 28 count. I started this in December of 2022, December 18th of 2022, and this is how far I've gotten. It is not even close to being finished, but I'm almost done one page, which feels pretty cool. So not sure when I'll pull this one back out, but it's always fun to stitch on. It's really easy because it's just that one thread. So yeah, love this piece. It's going to be gigantic. But less gigantic since I'm stitching it over one. So 28 count, one thread over one fabric thread. One strand of floss over one fabric thread. So that is where I got to with Ragnarok. Next up, it would not be a 2023 Flosstube video on this channel if I didn't give you a little bit of an update on Reaching Skyward. So Reaching Skyward is a pattern by Modern Folk Embroidery. In fact, it is their 2023 stitch along. And I've been working on this all year since January 1st of 2023. So I'll give some footage here of where I was last time you saw it. I had finished the September portion of the stitching, and now I have completed, oh, my needle minder is still in here. Now I have completed the October portion as well. Someday I will figure out how to orient things in this camera, but here it is. I've taken it out of its Q-snap, and look at it in all of its glory. This is all the way through October. I'll give you a little close-up here of that October section. This section was really, really fun. The section below the big medallion tree in the middle, I found it really, really fun for some reason. And yeah, so all done October. So I've just got 2 more months worth of stitching to do on this, and then it will be done. So some details about this piece. I'm using Roxy Floss Co. floss. The 2 colors are The Whiz and Brass Tacks. And this is being stitched on a 20 count Ada dyed by Roxy Floss Co. as well, and the colorway is called Porcelain. So 20 count Porcelain Ada. Really, really great to stitch on. A nice soft Ada and a nice high thread count, which I love also. And I'm stitching 1 strand of thread over one fabric thread with this 20 count Ada. So yeah, like I said, started this on January 1st this year, and I am currently at 84.41% complete on this piece. So I looked back at my previous videos. I hadn't actually been keeping track of the percentage each month, but yeah, that's where we currently are, 84.41% complete on that. So I also have a little bit of an update for you on Needs No Paint. Needs No Paint is a chart by Heaven and Earth Designs. The art is by Jill Clare. And this is my full coverage piece that I've been working on since sometime in the summer of 2021, I believe. I don't actually have a date written down for when I started it, but it's been going for some time now. You can see some footage here of where I was the last time I showed you this piece. At that time, I was at 29.46% complete. Here is where we're at now. And now I am at 30.75% complete. So I'm working in the head, working on finishing that up. And that's where we are. So this is all using DMC thread, and it's being stitched on a 28 count white even weave. I actually measured the count this time because I always say that I'm not entirely sure whether it's 25 or 28, but it is indeed 28 count. So here's where she is. I love this piece. It's always one of my favorites to stitch on, and I have decided that after Reaching Skyward is done, I'm going to focus on finishing this piece in 2024. So instead of doing another yearly stitch along, I'm going to chunk this up, figure out what percentage I need to complete each month once 2024 hits. And try and finish it by the end of the year next year so that it will finally be complete. Yeah, I'm excited, so excited for that. But here's where she is now. Yeah, lovely. All right, so finally I'm going to show you my new start. I decided to start Leshy, Guardian of the Woods. This is a pattern by The Witchy Stitcher. I've talked in previous videos about Stitchy for Witchy hashtag on Instagram, where people are sort of promoting and stitching on the Witchy Stitcher patterns to sort of support her while she goes through some tough medical treatments. And yeah, I've had my eye on this Leshy pattern for a long time. This weekend during 24 Hours of Cross Stitch, I was watching a scary movie with some friends online, and the only other piece that I had to stitch on was that Pale Noel piece. That linen is fairly dark, so it was like not great at nighttime to be stitching on that. So I decided to start Leshy, which I had kitted up in the weeks leading up to that. So yeah, there's no before photo for this because I just started it. So here is where I got to on Leshy, Guardian of the Woods. So I stitched the moon while we were watching that movie together with some friends on Saturday. And then during the day on Sunday, I started working on outlining this tree. So everything within that outlined space is going to be DMC 310. So at some point I can just mindlessly fill that in. But yeah, this is sort of the progress that I made. Pretty happy with that. Like I said, this is from the Witchy Stitcher. I'm using the called for DMC colors to stitch this. And the fabric is a 36 count stone gray linen. So I'm actually stitching this one floss thread over 2 fabric threads. So you might notice that a lot of the time I'm stitching on 32 count fabric, and I stitch 2 over 2 on 32 count. But I've been interested in trying some higher counts, like 36 and even 40 count fabric. So last time that I was at the Stitch Bug and was kitting some things up, that was something that I had in mind. And so for Leshy, I decided to go with this 36 count linen. And yeah, the stone gray is really, really nice. That you can't really see, maybe you can see it accurately in the video, but it's kind of warm, like it's got a bit of a mauveness to it. So yeah, I like it. It's a little bit moody, and I think it will look really good with Leshy on it. So really excited to have finally started this. Yeah, and excited to keep working on it whenever I'm feeling spooky. So that's Leshy. So now I'm going to move into some cross-stitching plans that I have for November and December. First of all, in November, the past few years, a lot of people in the stitching community have been doing Black Sampler November. So I thought I might like to do that, and I actually bought a pattern for this recently, and that pattern is called the Black Butterfly Sampler by Shaded Stitchery. So Shaded Stitchery, it might even still be, the sale might still be going on, but Shaded Stitchery was having a sale, FYI. I think like a birthday sale or something like that. So I have been looking at purchasing something from them for a while, and so I purchased the Black Butterfly Sampler as one of the things that I purchased. So a PDF of that. And like I said, I recently went to the Stitch Bug, and so while I was at the Stitch Bug, I was looking for fabric and floss to kit this up with. So first I'll show you the fabric that I chose. This is called Wise Wolf, and it's a 25 count Lugana, and it's showing up really well. Not sure about the dyer, because that is not included in part of the information that I get on my little card from Stitch Bug, but look at this, it's beautiful. So it's sort of a grayish, bluish purple with some really beautiful modeling. And is probably one of the most beautiful pieces of fabric that I'll have ever stitched on. Yes, and like I said, it's 25 count, which wasn't my first choice, but when I saw these colors, I decided that it would really look beautiful, and so I went with it. So we'll talk more about that in a second. I bought 2 flosses to stitch this with. When you look at the pattern, it looks kind of like it's all one color, but there are actually 2 different colors called for in the pattern. The butterflies are stitched in one color, and the alphabet and the flowers underneath the butterflies are stitched in another color. So I picked up a 10-yard skein of Blackboard by the Gentle Art. I do not have any other Gentle Art colors, but here's what this one looks like. Not sure how well it's going to be picking up on the video, but it's a very, very dark, kind of bluey leaning colorway. Yeah, you can kind of see the blue. And when I put it up against the fabric, hopefully you can see that I think it will look really well together. And then I also bought this Karen Waterlily silk called Dark Shadows. This one might be a little more difficult to see on video. Maybe I'll take some sort of B-roll footage of this so that you can get a better idea. But here is the idea. So this Karen Waterlilies has some gray in it, but it also has like a plummy color, like a plummy purple color, and sort of some dark tealy bits that really mesh well with the blackboard, I think, and with the background, with the fabric. So yeah, I'm hoping that those 2 will look good together in the sampler. If they don't, my plan is to just stitch the whole thing with one or the other, whichever one I like the most. And so you can see the beginnings of my, the repercussions of having stitched with silk thread on my Mirabilia on Ophelia. Now I'm doing things like buying silk threads, but it's very luxurious, and the color is beautiful, and I think it will look great, and life's too short to worry about that kind of thing. So no regrets, right? So I would like to start that piece on November 1st and stitch on it throughout November when I'm not stitching on Reaching Skyward and when I'm not stitching on whatever I need to stitch on to keep up with WIPGO. So we'll start the Black Butterfly sampler in November. I have another planned start in November. I signed up for the Lola Crow cross stitch Creepy Christmas Village Ornament Sal. So this is going to be a series of ornaments, Christmas ornaments, 6 of them specifically. And there's sort of a Victorian, creepy themed Christmas village is all that we know so far. I wouldn't normally be keen to buy into mystery stitch-alongs. It's not something that I've ever kind of wanted to do before. I love watching people stitch them on Flosstube, but for me it's like too risky. Same thing with mystery knit-alongs. I've never wanted to do one of those because it's just like, what if you don't like the end product and you've ended up spending all of these hours stitching on something that you don't end up liking. However, with Lola Crow in particular, I've seen 2 recent mystery stitch-alongs stitched by a lot of people on Flosstube that I really, really loved. So last year there was the Haunted Library Sal, I believe it was called. And then recently, I think just recently finished, was the Greenhouse of Oddities Sal, and those are both Lola Crow. Pretty sure. And I've really liked how both of those turned out. And so I thought that this seemed like something that will probably be something that I'll really enjoy. And I'm into stitching ornaments, as you obviously can tell. So I think it'll be great. I think it'll be like cute. I love like the whole Christmas village idea, the stitching little houses thing. Really, really loved. Home is Where the Horror Is, which is sort of, the similar vibe to this. So I'm really excited for that. So I also kitted up that project at the Stitch Bug the last time that I was there. And this stitch along, actually, you can buy fabric dyed specially for this Sal by Fox and Rabbit. I would love to have tried some Fox and Rabbit fabric. I've never tried any of their fabric before, but I really prefer buying fabric in person. I like supporting the Stitch Bug, and so I decided to see what they had there and go with that for this one. So what I found was a 40 count linen called Stormy Night. It's sort of a mottled gray. The camera is having a little bit of trouble picking it up, although that's not too bad. So I've got 6 pieces like this. They cut it all up for me and sewed all the edges so that it won't fray too much. And yeah, I'm going with this 40 count Stormy Night linen. And I'll be stitching this 1/2 with the called for DMC thread. And yeah, like I said, I've got 6 individual little pieces all cut into cute little squares for my ornaments. The first one of those ornaments comes out on November 3rd. So I will start that on or around November 3rd, that first little ornament. And then they're not going to be coming out every week, like there's some weeks off, but approximately every week into Christmas, into December, a new ornament will come out. So I'm excited to try that. I've never stitched on 40 count linen before. I've stitched like a Reaching Skyward is a 20 count Aida. So the crosses will be about the same size as my Reaching Skyward crosses are. But the linen is obviously a little bit trickier to stitch on than Aida because the holes are different, in case you weren't aware of the difference between Aida and linen. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But I've been stitching 1/2 on the 36 count, which Leshy, which has been going great. And this is not a dark fabric. It's also not hand dyed, it's printed. So it is a true 40 count and won't have shrunk at all. So I think it'll be fine, especially if I've got good lighting. So we'll see how that goes. So this reminds me then of Vlogmas, and to chat a little bit about that, because something that I have been thinking about is whether I want to do Vlogmas again this year, which I did do it last year. I recorded a video every day in December and updated you on the countdown calendar thingies that I was doing last year. So we had a beer calendar that I opened, my husband and I opened and shared every day. I had a yarn advent calendar from Hugh Loco, and I will have another one of those this year in December. And last year I was doing the Modern Folk Embroidery Christmas Countdown Sal, or Holiday Countdown Sal. That was a partnership between them, Roxy Floss Co. and Evertoad. I decided not to do that one again this year, even though I absolutely loved it and think that it's totally worth it. I already spent a lot of money on the yarn advent calendar, and so couldn't really justify spending pretty much an equal amount on a second calendar, like daily thing. So yeah, I'm not doing that one again. Heartbroken, but it's okay. I'll live vicariously by watching people open it on their Vlogmas videos. So I wanted something else though, some stitchy related stuff, some cross stitching stuff if I was going to do Vlogmas. And so these Lola Crow ornaments will be sort of my daily stitching update that you'll see throughout December. And I'm going to try again for daily videos. I don't think December is going to be too particularly crazy, so I should be able to do it again. If I could do it last year, why not this year? But we'll see. There's no pressure, right? So I'll try my best to record as many days in December as I can and do that again, because it was a lot of fun. Last year. I really enjoyed it. Another thing that's happening again this year in December is the Jingle Ball. So Jingle Ball is a virtual cross-stitch retreat, and the first year was last year. It's happening again this year, December 1st to the 3rd, and tickets are now available. I got mine. You can just pay for general entry into the retreat. It only costs about $10, which is super, super cheap. And that just gets you in and gets you access to some retreat exclusive patterns, including the Jingle Ball Baubles book. So I'll definitely be buying that again, because I got a lot of stitching out of my Baubles book from last year. But yeah, there's also some classes that you can sign up for. They cost more, most of them, but often you will be getting like a pattern and maybe even some physical kitted up materials that you would need to participate in the class. There's a lot of really great classes. The reason I didn't sign up isn't because there wasn't anything I was interested in. I would have taken every single class. I was just trying to save money and be a little economical. So I decided not to take any of the paid for classes, but I'm sure that they will be amazing. And I am going to go to the Satsuma Street free class that's sort of included with your main ticket. So if you're going to Jingle Ball, let me know in the comments, and maybe we can arrange to hang out together at one of the virtual stitchy tables. I would love that. I would love to be able to sit and chat with some of you. And if you haven't bought tickets yet and you were thinking about it, I would recommend it, and let me know because it'll be a great opportunity. It was a lot of fun last year, but I didn't last year get to do much sitting and stitching at stitchy tables. I watched a lot of the Q&As, which was also really cool and interesting, but I think this year I'm going to try and spend more time in stitchy tables to meet more people and make more connections with some other stitchers. So really looking forward to that. Okay, let's talk about knitting. So I have knit 1.5 hats since my last video. The pattern that I'm using is called the Musselburgh hat or Musselburgh hat. It's by Isolde Teague. I got it on Ravelry, and I saw Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch was knitting this hat. And I, after she was talking about it, I really liked the sounds of the pattern, and it sounded in particularly really good to knit a hat for my husband, Neil. So I'll show you, I've finished the one hat, so I'll show you that. So here's what it looks like. It's actually doubled over, so I'll pull it apart. It's just like this super long sock tube that you fold in half. So there's 2 layers of knitting here, and you can wear it just like this, like a slouchy hat, right? I don't know if you like that slouchy hat look. I think it's cute this way. Or if you like a brimmed hat, you can flip up the brim and wear it more like a beanie. Like so. Okay, it's super cute. I love this hat. My husband loves it too. And so when you do that, when you flip this up, there's actually 4 layers of knitted fabric between your ears and the cold outside air. So this is perfect for Neil because he loves knitted things, but he has experienced that often just a simple 1 layer of knitting doesn't keep you very warm. So it might be fine in the fall before things get too cold, but through winter you really need something a little bit more than just 1 layer of knitting, especially like a fingering weight. So he's been really pleased with how warm this little toque is. Another really cool thing about this pattern is that you can use any yarn and needle that you want to knit the hat. The pattern is written in such a way that it instructs you on how to get started, and then you take a gauge swatch from the knitting that you have done as part of the hat to figure out how many stitches or how many increases you're going to need to do. So you can use any yarn you want with any needle you want. And the pattern has sort of like a little formula to help you figure that out, a table. I've never seen that before. It's really great because it means you won't have to go out and buy special needles to get gauge, or you won't have to change the yarn that you're using to get gauge. So speaking of yarn, for this hat I used an opal yarn. Seeing if I have the ball band for that opal yarn. So I don't have the exact colorway, but it was one of the Van Gogh colorways for opal yarns. And so it's sort of like a fingering weight yarn. I used 3.25 millimeter ChiaoGoo needles to knit the hat. And I have started a second hat. So here it is. You can see I'm almost halfway done knitting this giant tube of a hat. This is just some black opal yarn. Opal is just like a German fingering weight yarn. 75% wool and 25% polyamide. Not sure what that is, but yeah, this is some opal. So this black one I'm knitting for my stepson for Christmas. So those are great. Love those hats. It's interesting because it's sort of like knitting 2 hats because you're knitting that double layer. But it is just straight knitting, and if I'm going to be sitting there knitting for my whole life anyways, I might as well be knitting a hat that's actually going to be warm. So yeah, really happy about this pattern. And I'm knitting that on the same needles, obviously, as the first hat. So I've got one more project to show you, another knitting project that I cast on since my last video. And this one is a shawl. It's called Châle Saison by Laine Poudrée. I found that on Ravelry as well. I believe it is a free pattern, so I'll have a link to that down below if you want to have a look. So yeah, hopefully you're seeing a picture of what the whole shawl will look like. I am using a green opal for this, which was originally going to be another Musselburgh hat, but the stepson that this was going to go to expressed a distaste for the type of hat that it would have become. So I decided to not spend many hours knitting a hat that he would not wear. So I thought, ooh, what can I knit with this for myself? It could have been another Musselburgh hat, because I'm sure I would love a green Musselburgh hat for myself. But I had this yarn as well in my stash. This is a Canadian hand-dyed yarn. The company is called Richard? Not entirely sure. I don't have the ball band here with me. But I got this at a yarn shop in Fredericton, New Brunswick this summer while I was driving around on my little road trip. So this is a superwash merino nylon blend, and the colorway is called Stunning. And as you can see, it's sort of like a yellow with some deep green speckling throughout. And I think personally that it looks really great with this forest green opal. So I am knitting those into this shawl. And here's where I've gotten. Okay, let's see. Get all my threads figured out. Yeah. So I've started into the third section. Here's the sort of first section is just like a garter stitch with the main color. Then you do some striping, and then some lace. A lace section, which I am partway through, and then it sort of alternates between these three different kinds of sections throughout the rest of the shawl. So haven't worked on it a whole lot. I think I spent some time over the course of one weekend working on this, but shawls are always fun, and I like this one because it's got a lace section that's really interesting to knit, but it also has some really simple easy sections. So I'm using a 4mm needle to knit this shawl, and I can't remember the brand. If you recognize it, why don't you comment below? It's like metal needle tips with a light blue cord. Really like them. The cord's very flexible, which is sort of the main problem with really cheap needles, in my opinion, is that like the cord that connects the needles is like awkward and doesn't bend very well. All right, so that is it for my knitting update. I've got 1.5 hats and a little bit of a shawl going. Last thing I want to talk about is my diamond painting progress. So if you've been watching, you'll know that I am currently working on a gigantic diamond painting that I got from Diamond Art Club, and it's called Kraken Number 1 if you want to look it up. It's a really long image. It's 17 inches by 51 inches, so 17 inches wide by 51 inches long, or 42.8 centimeters by 129.7 centimeters long. And the image is of this kraken sort of overtaking a ship. And I started that in April of this year, 2023. And I'm slowly plugging away at it. For a few months, I hadn't done any diamond painting at all. But since my last video, I did a pretty good little chunk of it. And I am partway through the big sail in the middle of that pattern. So yeah, still really loving that diamond painting. These are square diamonds, by the way. And there are 64 total unique colors in this diamond painting. And yeah, I love it. It's going really well. I kind of want to finish it because I've got, like, I think 3 more diamond painting kits. And I've actually got a paint by number Leonid Afromov paint by number that I would like to finish soon, because I feel like the paints are gonna dry out if I don't finish it soon. So I might toss that into my like diamond painting rotation. Anyway, that is about it for today. So thank you so much for listening. Let me know in the comments what you have been working on lately. Hopefully you've been stitching away or working away on something while you watch my video. And yeah, I really appreciate it. Hopefully I will see you again not too long from now, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.